over to you, Richard.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here tonight in Halifax and to be in a room with so many passionate socialists and trade unionists and to hear from our trade union brothers and sisters at this on this speaker's platform as well. And I also want to start by congratulating Rashida. She'll be blushing behind this mask. That many people are congratulating her. But congratulations on this important meeting tonight, because it is an important meeting to bring people together who know that the current state of affairs can't be allowed to go on. To bring people together who know that the current state of affairs in this, the sixth biggest economy on earth, isn't inevitable and we can do something about it. So we hear a lot of talk, don't we, about how the system is broken. Well, I'm here to tell you that the system is working. The system is working perfectly because the system isn't designed to help the 99%. The system that we're taking on is designed to funnel wealth from the majority who create it to the super rich at the top. The system is designed to operate like Robin Hood in reverse. We can do something about it. We hear a lot about the cost of living crisis, but for those at the very top, it really has been boom time. British billionaires have increased their wealth by £220 million every single day. There's never been as many billionaires in Britain as there are now. Gas and oil companies are making £2,000 in profits per second. £2,000 in profits per second. And the chief executive pay at the very top firms is now averaging £3.6 million per year. So when they talk about tough times, it's not tough times for those at the very top. They've never done as well. Someone once said, and they were correct, many people ask the question, why are the poor poor? You may as well ask the question, why are the super rich super rich? Because the answer to both of those questions is the same. It's precisely because the super rich that the 99% is facing this cost of living crisis, this biggest attack on working class living standards that we've seen in living memory. But it doesn't have to be like this. We need now to call an end to the neoliberal economic system whose ideas have dominated and ruled the roost for decades. We need to call an end to that. A better way is necessary, but a better way is possible as well. We saw after the banking crisis in 2008 that our communities were forced to pay the price. The Tories took the political choice, because it wasn't an economic necessity, of austerity and pushed it through, and it hit our communities in the pocket and it hit our public services. Well, that's what they're trying to do now. And we hear talk, don't we, of tough choices. We all know that when a Tory minister or a Tory MP uses a language of tough choices and difficult decisions, it's a euphemism for taking the easiest path of all for a Tory government. And that path is to kick the 99% and enrich the 1%. That's the truth. There is no need for a single penny of cuts. That's the truth. Yeah. It's a truth that needs to be spoken. When I was on BBC Politics Live the other week, I said to the presenter, and I was on with a pretty awful Tory MP, but I said to the presenter, give me 20 seconds and I'll explain why the government talk of £40 billion worth of cuts isn't necessary. There isn't a £40 billion black hole. Let's look at an alternative. End non-dom status, that raises £3 billion. Introduce a 1% tax on wealth over £5 million, that would raise £10 billion. Introduce a 45% tax rate on earnings over 80 grand and a 50% tax rate on earnings over 125 grand, that would raise £6 billion. Equalise dividend and capital gains tax rates with income tax rates, so that we don't have this perverse situation anymore that taxes on work are higher than tax on income from wealth. That in itself would raise £21 billion. The total of those four measures I've just referred to would be to raise £40 billion. The precise figure the government has been saying is a black hole that needs to be filled by cuts on living standards and cuts to our public services that are already cut to the bone. So we see again that cuts and austerity are a political choice, not an economic necessity. And for those that say that it's impossible to get this money out of the super rich, we just need the political will and the political determination. They got a man on the moon, didn't they? They're finding cures for all these diseases. They developed the COVID vaccine so quickly. You can't tell me that we can do all this as a society and we can't manage to get this extra money from the super rich in order to build a better society. It's a question not of impossibility, it's a question of political will. And that's why in Prime Minister's Question Time the other week, to groans from the Conservatives who didn't like it, I raised the point that it would take a nurse more than 20,000 years at work, to match the wealth of this super rich Prime Minister. And that just goes to show not only that he doesn't live in the real world the rest of us do, it just goes to show that the money is there. There's quite a few people, his fortune's £750 million, there's quite a few people with that kind of wealth they could never actually spend. So this idea that that money is somehow off bounds is total nonsense. We need to take a moral choice. The moral choice to make sure that the working class in all its diversity, the majority in our society, and our public services don't pay the price for this crisis. So there is an alternative. The wealth taxes that I've just mentioned, a proper windfall tax, because we also do need to actually make those greedy oil and gas companies pay. And we need to understand that your bills are up because the oil and gas companies' profits are up. The windfall tax, in my opinion, should be hiked so that these companies are not allowed to make a single penny of profit off the back of increasing bills for ordinary people, especially during this cost of living crisis. The billions of pounds raised through that could be used for a social emergency fund to help people get through this crisis. And of course, we need public ownership of our energy system. Public ownership, so we have an energy system that puts people and planet first, not the pursuit of profit. And we need to pursue policies such as a £15 an hour minimum wage, the restoration of the £1,000 universal credit uplift, an expansion to millions on benefits, like many disabled people who never got that uplift in the first place. And we need an end to that cruel benefits cap, which is punishing children right across the country. And of course, we need wages and social security and benefits. We need those inflation proofing as well. And we need to tackle hunger. There is no justification at all for the fact that in this, as I say, the sixth biggest economy in the world, there are more food banks in our country than there are branches of McDonald's. So we need free school meals for all school children, which is what Labour in government in Wales is actually doing. And we need price caps on essential foods. That's a move backed by 7 in 10 voters, including 2/3 of Conservative voters. We need caps on rents and, as I say, basic foods as well. And we need to reduce public transport costs, like has happened in Spain and Germany with government intervention. So we meet at a time of crisis. We meet at a time. I'm just waiting for this 1 minute to be passed to me. Is that its way?
No, we wouldn't dare.
Oh no, you can't. Now people have got to get home for this this programme, which I've never watched. But I certainly won't watch it with Matt Hancock. And what a disgrace that is. They talk about trials, don't they? Bush Tucker trials and the rest of it. There's lots of people out there who believe that some people should be on trial for the scandalous way that COVID was handled in this country. Tens of thousands of people unnecessarily dying. And the topics were put before public safety. Absolutely appalling. And we know, don't we, that a better way is forward. We know that when it comes to the economy, when it comes to health, when it comes to public services, when it comes to our taxation system, we need to push for a better way that helps every single person in this country. And Naylor talked earlier about scapegoating. People need to understand that as this economic crisis bites, then the scapegoating by right-wing politicians and the right-wing media will increase. The language used by the Home Secretary about migrants was absolutely appalling. But it was deliberate. It wasn't accidental. I believe it's a deliberate political strategy. I believe that the treatment of the migrants at Manston was deliberate as well, in order to throw some red meat to right-wing papers and right-wing Tory backbenchers. And I think it's completely immoral to play politics with people's lives, especially the lives of the most vulnerable and most marginalised. So we need to stand up against the scapegoating of migrants and minorities. We need to stand up against all attempts by the right-wing establishment to divide the working class in all its diversity. It's not because of migrants that the price of food essentials are going up. It's not because of migrants that councils don't have enough money to build sufficient council houses. It's not because of migrants that people are worried about going to university because they're going to be saddled with so much debt. It's not because of migrants that our National Health Service hasn't had the funding that it needs and it deserves. On the contrary, so many people who were born overseas are helping to keep our National Health Service running, are real heroes in our National Health Service. And when we talk about the kind of policies that I was talking about earlier, some people, of course, will say it's impossible. You know, I couldn't disagree more. But all through history, we've been told that every single advance that we work for is impossible. And then it happens. People said that women would never get the vote, and then women won the vote. People said that it would never be the case that we would win a National Health Service, and then a National Health Service was won. People thought the idea of a welfare state was a pipe dream, and then it was secured. People thought the idea of an 8-hour working day and having weekends was a pipe dream, and that children would always be sent into factories and sent up chimneys and sent down coal mines, and then the trade union movement stopped those things happening. People, of course, said internationally that apartheid in South Africa would never fall, and then the South African people saw an end to apartheid and won that struggle. So all the advances made in our country and globally, historically, have always been denounced as impossible, because there are two messages, aren't there, from the establishment when they hear the very moderate demands that we're making. One message is to the rest of the public, which is to say anybody who argues for decent pay is somehow some kind of wild extremist. So they want to demonise the trade union movement and demonise the labour and trade union and socialist movement. And then there's a message from the establishment to all of you, which is don't bother, give up, you can't change anything. We know from our history that we can change things. We know from our history that we have changed things. So I'm proud to be here today. I'm proud to support the civil servants in their forthcoming strike action, the RMT workers, the communication workers union members, I'm proud to support all workers in struggle, because we can't wait. We need to get Labour government, but we can't wait until the next general election to fight back. We need to fight back now, because workers are suffering pay cuts now. Our public services are being attacked now. Migrants are being scapegoated now. So we need to fight back now, and we need to understand that where workers fight back and where workers win, that's not just a victory for workers in that sector, it's a victory for workers everywhere. This wave of strike action can be the rising tide that lifts all boats. So yes, let's work together to get this dreadful Tory government out, get a Labour government, and argue for transformative policies that will protect and lift living standards. And let's argue and build a movement for the 99%, for the working class in all its diversity in this country. And fundamentally, let's change the system so we have a system that puts people, public services and planet first, not the pursuit of profit. Thank you very much.